Yakshay was confused, but confusion was a luxury now, and luxury had left him the moment Darkveil entered his bloodstream. He had no option. DSI existed, not as an idea, not as a lie, as a registered name on paper, as a rented space in the city, as a door with a brass plate that read, Darkveil Security and Investigators. He had sold the crypto carefully through layers of conversion, through channels that Daria claimed were safe enough. The money had become clean, at least on the surface. The office was not grand. No marble floors, no glass towers, just a second-floor unit above an old electronics market, tucked away from the gaze of the powerful. A modest reception, 2 chairs, a steel cupboard, a desk that still smelled of fresh varnish. It looked almost honest. At present, it was only 2 men inside it, Yakshay and Daria Singh. Daria moved like a rat who had suddenly found himself inside a palace. His eyes constantly measured corners, exits, possibilities.
This is good,
he said once, tapping the desk.
Respectable, middle class. Nobody suspects the middle class.
Yakshay did not reply. He was staring at the ceiling fan, watching it spin like time mocking him. Now came the next step. A company could not be a company with only ghosts inside it. DSI needed staff, faces, bodies, employees with identity cards and salaries. It needed to look real. So Daria placed advertisements quietly. Not on billboards, not loudly, just enough for the right kind of people to notice. Security personnel required, ex-services preferred, discretion mandatory. And now, the first interview had arrived. Yakshay sat behind his desk, trying to look like a businessman, trying to look like someone who belonged on this side of the law. Across from him sat a man built like a weapon, 6'4", shoulders like stone, forearms thick with old scars and discipline. His hair was cropped short, his jaw permanently clenched, as if he had forgotten how to relax. He claimed to be ex-army. He spoke with the bluntness of someone who had once taken orders without questions.
My name is Kabir Rana,
the man said. His voice was deep, steady. Yakshay glanced at the file Daria had prepared. Kabir Rana, age 36, service record, incomplete, 2 years gap unexplained. Yakshay looked up.
You have firearms experience?
He asked. Kabir's lips tightened slightly.
Yes.
A pause.
Close quarters, tactical.
Yakshay nodded slowly. Kabir shifted his jacket just enough for Yakshay to notice the weight at his waist.
A licensed pistol.
Kabir said calmly, as if reading Yakshay's mind. He reached into his bag and placed a laminated card on the table. Then, with deliberate care, he showed the weapon. A Glock. Clean, maintained. Not the gun of a hobbyist, the gun of a man who had held it like an extension of his pulse. Daria, sitting in the corner, smiled. Yakshay felt his throat dry.
You're applying for security work.
Yakshay said. Kabir's eyes did not blink.
I'm applying for survival.
He replied. That sentence landed heavier than it should have. Yakshay frowned.
What do you mean?
Kabir leaned forward slightly.
I mean, this city is changing. I can smell it.
His gaze sharpened.
Something is hunting, and something is being hunted.
Yakshay felt his fingers stiffen on the desk. Kabir continued, voice low now.
When I saw your advertisement, DSI, I didn't see a company.
A pause.
I saw a shield.
Daria chuckled softly.
A shield that pays well,
Daria said. Kabir did not look at him. His eyes remained fixed on Yakshay.
But shields are often built by men who know swords,
Kabir said. Yakshay's heartbeat thudded. For a moment the office felt smaller. The fan above seemed louder. The daylight through the window seemed colder. Then, a whisper. Not from Kabir, not from Daria, from inside Yakshay. Darkveil.
Careful.
The voice purred.
This one is not ordinary.
Yakshay swallowed. Kabir's expression did not change, but his eyes narrowed slightly, as if he too had sensed something unsaid.
Tell me,
Kabir said softly.
what kind of security does DSI truly provide?
Yakshay froze. The question hung in the air like smoke. Daria's smile faded, and somewhere deep inside Yakshai's chest, Darkveil smiled, because the first employee had arrived, and the devil always hired carefully. Yakshai's voice was calm, but the calm was practiced, the kind of calm men wear when chaos lives beneath their skin.
We are not here to guard shopping malls or escort drunken politicians.
He said, his eyes steady.
DSI is built for a different tier.
Kabir sat across from him, silent, attentive. Yakshay continued, measured, deliberate.
We provide security to the top businessmen, high-profile people, the ones whose names move markets and whose deaths would move nations.
A pause.
The aim is not only to act reactively,
His gaze sharpened.
but proactively. We prevent threats before they become headlines.
Kabir's expression did not shift, but something in his posture tightened. Interest, intent. Yakshay leaned slightly back, indicating the machinery behind him. A complex computer system hummed softly in the corner. Multiple screens, encrypted dashboards, constellation-like data nodes blinking in patterns only Yakshay understood.
We are not any other security agency.
Yakshay said quietly.
We are elite.
He gestured toward the setup.
I have robust AI infrastructure, predictive models, behavioral threat mapping.
A pause.
But I need strong men on the ground.
Kabir nodded once, a man who had nodded to orders all his life.
I am a man without a permanent job.
Kabir said.
I can join this moment.
Yakshay studied him. Too ready, too clean.
Good.
Yakshay replied.
But first, I need to see what you are.
Kabir's eyes narrowed slightly. Yakshay stood. He walked to a cabinet and pulled out a virtual reality rig, military grade, expensive, far beyond what this modest office should have possessed. Kabir watched without questions. Yakshay placed the gear over Kabir's head.
You're entering a simulation.
Yakshay said calmly.
I want to see how you react when the world collapses in seconds.
Kabir nodded. The room disappeared. In the simulation, Kabir found himself standing outside a bedroom door. 2 guards beside him, a corridor heavy with silence. The contract briefing floated in the air like a curse. Security detail, Home Minister of the state. Then, a noise. Inside the bedroom, not loud, just wrong. Kabir moved instantly, no hesitation. He pushed the door open. The Home Minister stood frozen, alive. And in the dim corner, Assassin Prime. Gun raised, finger tightening. Time slowed. Kabir fired. 3 shots, clean, controlled. Assassin Prime collapsed. Blood spread across the floor like ink. Kabir didn't stare. He didn't celebrate. He moved, straight to the minister.
Sir,
Kabir said sharply, gripping his arm.
you need to be relocated immediately.
The minister blinked, confused.
The threat is.
Kabir cut him off.
The threat is never one man.
Before the minister could protest, Kabir dragged him out, moving through corridors that the minister did not recognize. A strong room, an unknown secure chamber. Kabir sealed the door. Only then did the rest of the guards encircle the fallen assassin. Relief began to bloom. Too early, because then the corpse moved. Assassin Prime sat up, wounds knitting unnaturally, eyes hollow. He shot the guards down in seconds, vaulted through the window, and vanished into the night. The simulation ended. Kabir removed the gear slowly. Yakshay was watching him like a man watching a mirror crack. Yakshay asked,
Why did you take the minister away when the threat was neutralized?
Kabir's reply came without arrogance.
It was simple.
A pause.
My duty is not to kill the aggressor.
His eyes locked onto Yakshay's.
My duty is to safeguard the client.
He leaned forward slightly.
Even if the threat seems neutralized, how do we know he was alone?
Yakshay's fingers tightened on the desk. Kabir continued, voice colder now.
Maybe he was a decoy, a placebo.
A beat.
A sniper could already be waiting, a second attacker, a remote trigger.
Yakshay exhaled slowly.
Impressive.
He murmured. Kabir nodded once.
The first rule is always relocation. Remove the asset from the kill zone.
Daria, standing behind, smiled proudly.
Good.
Daria said.
Very good.
Yakshay's gaze remained fixed.
Fine.
Yakshay said.
You've cleared the first round?
He stood.
Now comes the physical test.
They moved to an open ground outside the city's quieter edge. Markings cut across the dirt like battlefield geometry. Yakshay pointed.
10 kilometers, half an hour.
Kabir didn't flinch.
And after that,
Yakshay added.
precision shooting.
3 mannequins stood ahead, draped in black. Silent aggressors. Kabir began running, not like a civilian, like a man returning to muscle memory. His stride was disciplined, brutal, efficient. 27 minutes later, he stopped. No collapse, no weakness, only controlled breathing. He picked up the pistol. 3 shots, 3 targets, each hit dead center. The mannequins fell like executed shadows. Yakshay stared.
Superb.
He said quietly. He stepped forward.
You're far more capable than I expected.
Kabir's jaw tightened. Yakshay nodded once.
You're in.
Kabir's face finally shifted. Not joy, but relief. Daria was pleased. The company was becoming real. But Yakshay felt something unsettled. This man was too prepared, too willing, too perfect for a company that had been born yesterday. Who was Kabir Rana? And why did it feel as if he had been waiting for DSI? Inside Yakshay, something stirred. A dark amusement. A whisper that felt older than breath. Darkveil. We will find out. Soon. Pandit Nagendra did not believe in coincidence. He believed in patterns. And patterns, when ignored, became curses. London was drowning in rain when the private jet touched down. The city wore its usual expression. Ancient stone, wet cobblestones, and a sky that looked permanently disappointed. It suited Nagendra's mood. Beside him stood Suraj Gera, billionaire industrialist, chairman of SG Enterprises, a man whose handshake could tilt markets and whose silence could crush competitors. They were an unlikely pair. An astrologer in saffron robes, a tycoon in tailored wool, yet one had made the other. Inside the black sedan slicing through Mayfair's slick streets, Suraj finally broke the silence.
Pandit Ji, why did you want to come to London so badly?
Nagendra did not look at him. His gaze was fixed outside, as if the rain itself were whispering secrets.
You do not know.
He said quietly.
I am searching for something specific. Thank you for arranging this trip.
Suraj allowed himself a faint smile.
This is the least I can do. Whatever I am, whatever I built, began with your blessings.
That was true. Years ago, in a forgotten orphanage, a thin boy with angry eyes had been told by this very man that he would rise above his circumstances. Nagendra had mapped his stars, guided his education, directed him toward petrochemicals when others laughed, later toward technology before the boom. Now Suraj Gera was not merely wealthy, he was influential, feared, respected, and he trusted only one man blindly. Nagendra turned toward him.
I am searching for a local thief.
Sarai blinked.
Of what?
A local thief.
The billionaire frowned.
In London?
Yes,
A pause.
in the 1870s.
The car felt colder.
1870s London?
Suraj's voice sharpened.
Pandit Ji, what exactly are you looking for?
Nagendra's expression did not change.
I need to know his qualities.
I am not understanding a single word you are saying.
Nagendra finally faced him fully.
The man fell into a deep construction pit while running from the police. Gas lamps, mud streets, horses. He was badly injured, spine fractured, ribs broken, almost dead.
Suraj stared at him. How does a man speak of the 1870s like yesterday?
And
He asked carefully.
And at that moment,
Nagendra said, voice lowering.
An evil spirit possessed him?
Silence swallowed the sedan. Rain battered the windows like impatient fingers. Surag was confused, but not dismissive. He had learned long ago that when Nagendra spoke in riddles, markets moved. Wars of business were won. Fates shifted. Nagendra closed his eyes, and London dissolved. Flashback, London, 1873. Fog thick as guilt. The thief was no more than 25. Thin, quick, desperate. He had stolen to survive, lied to exist, and run to breathe another day. That night, he ran too fast. A misstep, a scream, then darkness. He lay at the bottom of a muddy pit, rain mixing with blood, bones twisted wrong. Above him, policemen cursed and left him for dead. He wept, not for pain, for insignificance.
I don't want to die like this.
He whispered to no one, but someone answered. The fog thickened, the air grew heavy, time itself seemed to hesitate. A shape formed in the shadows, tall, faceless, draped in something darker than night. Two thin slits of crimson light where eyes should have been. Darkveil. The thief tried to crawl back, but his body betrayed him.
Do you want to live?
The entity asked, voice like metal scraping stone.
Yes.
The thief choked.
Then live, for me.
The bargain was simple. Your body, your will, forever. The thief, broken and terrified, nodded. The spirit entered him. The pain stopped instantly. Bones aligned. Blood thickened. Breath returned, but something else breathed with it. He climbed out of the pit alone. But he was no longer alone. The first thing Darkveil did was erase weakness. Petty theft disgusted him. Within weeks, the thief walked into the headquarters of a local crime lord, a man feared across dockyards and gambling dens. The guards never understood what happened. The crime lord was found dead in his chair. No struggle, no mercy, precision. The thief did not steal from the mafia. He replaced him. And from that night, London's underworld whispered a new name, Assassin Prime. The board outside still smelled of fresh paint. Darkveil security and investigators. Second floor, above a dying electronics market, between cracked neon boards and wires that hung like exposed nerves. Inside, Yakshay sat behind a desk that pretended to be legitimate. Across from him, Daria Singh shifted in his chair like a man who had survived too much to ever sit comfortably again. Daria didn't ask questions anymore. Not after he had seen what Assassin Prime could do. Not after the Home Minister had been butchered inside a fortress disguised as a home. Assassin Prime had ordered him to work with Yakshay. That was enough. Still, the silence disturbed him. Nearly 50 million Indian rupees lay layered through accounts, gold converted, crypto washed in cautious streams. His son was placed in a boarding school far from the city's bloodlines, safe, insulated, or as safe as the money of murder could make him. A few days had passed since the killing. No message, no sighting, no shadow on the wall. Assassin Prime had vanished, and Daria didn't know if he should hunt for a new client or wait for the devil to return. Yakshay, meanwhile, was playing a different game. He wore tailored suits now. He spoke to industrialists. He attended closed-door gatherings where businessmen whispered about threat perception more than profit margins. But no one signed. A one-man security firm run by the heir of SG Enterprises looked like a joke or a trap. Far from that office, in a room without windows, the High-Risk Criminal Intelligence Division, HRCID, watched quietly. Assistant Commissioner Manav Shekhar didn't believe in coincidences. Two nobodies rising after a political assassination, crypto movement, a sudden security agency, front. It smelled like a front. They had no evidence, but instinct was sometimes sharper than law.
Keep eyes on both.
Bye, Manav had ordered, and so they did. Back in the office, a third chair was now occupied. Kabir Rana, ex-paramilitary, scar across the jaw, eyes that measured exits before faces. Yakshay's first recruit. They didn't recruit in bulk. They recruited in silence. That afternoon, the glass door opened. A man in his mid-40s entered. Clean suit, diamond watch, coal black hair streaked with strategic gray. The kind of wealth that did not shout. It suffocated. He didn't sit immediately.
What kind of security does DSI provide?
He asked, studying the peeling ceiling corner as if testing the honesty of the room. Yakshay leaned back.
Special protection, the kind not available in brochures.
The businessman finally sat.
You are the heir of SG Enterprises. Why open a private security firm?
Yakshay smiled faintly, not warmth, calculation.
I wanted to build something that's mine. And after the gang war, after the Home Minister's murder, I realized protection is the only business that never goes out of demand.
The businessman watched him closely.
You have one recruit.
We don't recruit numbers,
Yakshay replied.
we recruit capability.
Silence stretched. Then the man spoke.
My mines in Kolar receive constant threats from Naxal groups. I move material daily. I want my goods transported safely from Kolar to Port Damra.
Daria stiffened. Kolar to Damra, over 400 kilometers, 50 kilometers of dense jungle, perfect terrain for ambush, perfect terrain for bodies. Yakshay didn't blink.
My price is 10 million Indian rupees per month.
The businessman laughed softly.
That's excessive. For one truck escort?
One truckload of your material costs 5 million Indian rupees.
Yakshay replied evenly.
You said 20 trucks move daily.
The man's eyes narrowed.
And if you fail?
I reimburse your loss.
That could be 100 million Indian rupees.
Then let's put it in writing.
Yakshay said quietly.
If I fail to protect a convoy, I pay 100 million.
Daria nearly turned to look at him, but he stopped himself. The businessman stared. Confidence is dangerous, but fearless confidence is addictive,
Fine.
the billionaire said finally.
10 million Indian rupees per month. 1-year contract.
They shook hands. The deal was signed. After the door closed, silence flooded the office. Daria finally spoke.
Are you insane?
Yakshay looked at the contract lying on the desk.
No?
He said softly. Something moved inside him. Not fear. Something colder. The jungle was unpredictable. Naxals were ruthless. Convoys were easy targets. But Yakshay knew something Daria didn't. When the jungle swallowed trucks, Darkveil walked without footprints, and shadows never missed their target.
If you don't mind, may I ask what the connection is?
Suraj Gera asked it like a man stepping onto thin ice. They were seated in a hotel suite that smelled of polished wood and expensive silence. The city lights below shimmered like a nervous system under glass. Between them, untouched tea had gone cold. Pandit Nagendra did not answer immediately. He let the silence stretch. In the reflection of the window, his saffron robes looked almost black.
Suraj,
He said at last, voice low and deliberate.
what I am about to tell you will disturb the architecture of your certainty.
Suraj felt it again, that unease he had been carrying since Yakshay's return. A wrongness, subtle, metallic, like the taste of blood before it appears. He did not interrupt.
Yakshay
Nagendra continued.
is not alone inside his own body.
Suraj's jaw tightened.
What are you implying?
I am not implying,
Nagendra said softly.
I am stating he is possessed.
The word did not echo, it sank.
What?
The disbelief came out sharper than intended.
I expected that reaction.
Nagendra folded his hands calmly.
But truth does not bend itself to comfort. I have studied this. Cross-reference texts, Ottoman archives, Sufi manuscripts, family records, and what I found
He paused.
did not begin in this century.
The room seemed to dim.
In the 1750s,
Nagendra began.
The Levant lay under the iron canopy of the Ottoman Empire. Among its provinces was the Sidon Eyalet, a land of ports, silk, cotton, and blood-soaked politics.
So this is history now?
Suraj asked, trying to anchor himself in something rational.
This is origin.
Nagendra corrected.
Sidon was ruled by Ottoman governors, pashas, men appointed by the Sultan, men who wore authority like perfume. But power in that era was not stable. It shifted between Damascus and Sidon like a knife between hands.
He leaned forward.
Below the pasha were district rulers, Sanjak begs, and among them was a man named Iskander Khalil.
Nagendra let the name linger.
He was not born for obscurity. He governed the Sanjak with discipline, ruthless efficiency. But he wanted more. He wanted the title, the horse's tails, the imperial seal. He wanted to be pasha.
And the Pasha?
Suraj asked quietly.
The pasha of Sidon at that time
Nagendra said, eyes narrowing.
was Farooq Nizam, a man beloved by the people and favored by Istanbul. Charismatic, strategic, untouchable.
Outside, a siren wailed somewhere far below.
Iskander Khalil
Nagendra continued.
understood something most men do not. If you cannot defeat a man politically, you unmake him spiritually.
Suraj's fingers tightened around the armrest.
There were whispers in Damascus
Nagendra said softly.
of a tribe, of rituals, of a pact made beneath a moonless sky, and of something summoned that night. Something that did not die when Iskander Khalil did.
The air between them had grown heavy.
Suraj,
Nagendra's voice dropped almost to a whisper.
some ambitions do not end with death. They wait, they travel, they attach,
He looked directly into Suraj's eyes.
and they return.
The silence that followed was not empty. It was watching. Flashback, Sidon 1750. Sidon belonged to Farooq Nizam. He wore the province like a crown, firm, admired, efficient. The markets breathed easier under his rule. The ports sang with commerce. Even Istanbul approved. The Sultan's favor sat comfortably on Farooq's shoulders. But approval is a knife that attracts hungry hands. In Damascus, there were men who smiled too politely when Farooq's name was spoken. Men whose loyalty was only a costume. Men who believed Sidon should be ruled by someone else. Tonight, those men sat with Iskander Khalil, a Sanjak beg with ambition burning behind his eyes, a man who wanted more. It was a new moon night, the kind of night where the sky itself looked complicit. Khalil was drunk, not on wine alone, but on resentment. One of the Damascene conspirators, Arslan, had brought a gift. A girl, barely 20, skin pale as untouched parchment, eyes lowered, as though she had already learned that survival meant silence. Khalil stared at her with the lazy cruelty of power. Khalil, in one blow, removed all clothings of the girl. She was naked. Khalil had a wry smile.
I am impressed, Arslan.
He muttered.
Huzur,
Arslan replied smoothly.
the finest Damascus can offer.
Khalil's mouth curved, not a smile but something colder. Khalil said while pulling the girl towards him.
And what do you want in return?
Khalil kissed the girl mercilessly. Arslan's answer came like a prayer spoken to the wrong god.
Nothing, except to see you as Pasha.
Khalil's amusement faded. His ambition sharpened.
Even I want it.
He said, voice thick.
But Farooq is not easily removed.
The girl trembled as Khalil was over her, treating her like an object in the room rather than a living soul. Khalil was inserting himself inside her, enjoying every moment of the soft touch. Arslan watched without blinking. Khalil exhaled, bitter laughter in his throat.
I wish I could do this to Farooq too.
Arslan chuckled.
My lord,
He said.
I did not bring her only for indulgence.
Khalil paused.
What?
Arslan leaned forward, lowering his voice.
She is from Banu al-Zulmah.
The name struck the air like a curse. Khalil stiffened. The intoxication drained from him instantly, replaced by something older than fear. He stood up, robe falling back into place, appetite for the carnal pleasure gone. The girl rose as well, calmly covering herself, her movements almost ritualistic. Arslan's smile turned thin.
Sire, any man who sleeps with her on a new moon dies before dawn.
Khalil's face tightened.
What?
Shock carved through him. Arslan raised a hand gently.
Do not panic. The charm has not been awakened yet.
A breath of relief, small, fragile. Then Arslan's voice darkened again.
All you must do is perform the prayer, the true rite, and then,
Khalil's eyes narrowed.
take her to Farouk.
The room felt colder.
If Farouk takes her,
Arslan whispered.
he will become her slave forever, and she,
He smiled.
will be yours.
Khalil's ambition flickered like a lamp in storm wind.
Then whatever I demand,
Farouk will agree.
Arslan finished. A silence followed. Not peaceful, predatory.
This
Arslan murmured.
is the power of the black magic, the Banu al-Zulmah.
Khalil's face hardened. The softness of indulgence was gone. What remained was politics, and something far worse. The moon over Damascus was a bruised silver coin, failing to light the labyrinthine alleys where shadows possessed weight. In a hidden courtyard, the air tasted of stale incense and old secrets. Iskander Khalil sat within a chalk-white circle, his skin pale against the encroaching gloom. Beside him, the slave girl was a silhouette of soft curves and shivering breath. Both Khalil and the slave girl were naked. Surrounding them were not the pious men of the mosques, but the Rouhani, shadow workers who whispered to the jinn and birthed talismans in the choking smoke of black candles. Arslan watched from the periphery, a ghost among the ruins. The chief Rouhani, a man whose face was a map of etched transgressions, made a sharp gesture with his hands. It was the command. Khalil drew the girl into an embrace, their nakedness a stark contrast to the rough wool of the chanting men. As their lips met, the ruqya began, a rhythmic, guttural drone that seemed to vibrate the very stones beneath them. As Khalil lost himself in the girl's soft embrace, the ritual deepened. Khalil was inserting himself in the slave girl, and with his every stroke the Rouhani's voices rose in a fevered crescendo. Then, the atmosphere curdled. A dark, oily mist bled from the shadows, coiling like a serpent before surging into Khalil's lungs. He didn't see it. He only felt the sudden, violent surge of a strength that wasn't his own. His movements became frenetic, possessed by a mechanical, driving malice. The girl, once a passive participant in the heat, let out a moan that curdled into a jagged cry. Khalil was stroking her with such intensity that was out of this world. The air grew sweltering, heavy with the scent of ozone and copper. The chanting reached a deafening pitch. A second mist, darker than the first, engulfed the girl. In a sudden, jarring motion, she was no longer the victim of the rhythm, but its master. She arched, her eyes vacant and dark, pinning Khalil to the cold earth. They were no longer two lovers, they were vessels for an ancient, hungry tide. She was now jumping over Khalil, and they were making such a passionate love which was unheard of. For 30 minutes, the world outside the white circle ceased to exist. There was only the friction of skin, the salt of sweat, and the oppressive weight of the unseen. Then, silence fell like a guillotine. The mists uncoiled from their bodies, dissipating into the desert night. Khalil lay broken on the dirt, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Beside him, the girl drifted on the edge of consciousness, the physical toll of the ritual evidenced by the dark stains on the earth beneath her. The chief Rouhani rose, his hand cutting through the silence. The union was complete. Arslan stepped into the circle, his voice a low rasp.
Huzur, the awakening has happened. You and the girl, You are one soul now, linked by the ink of the jinn.
Khalil could not find the words. He was a hollowed-out shell, watching the Rouhani vanish one by one into the fog of the alleys. The desert wind had turned razor cold. Arslan, ever the silent servant, draped heavy silks over their spent bodies. He lifted them into the waiting cart like porcelain dolls, their breathing synchronized in a way that felt unnatural. As the wheels rattled toward the palace, Khalil lay in the dark, wondering if the soul he now felt inside him was actually his own. The air in the palace was stagnant, smelling of old dust and the copper tang of the ritual that still clung to Khalil's skin. It took a full turn of the sun for the world to stop spinning. For the slave girl, the shadows were deeper, her recovery a slow crawl back from the abyss. Khalil sat in the dim light of his chambers, his fingers tracing the edge of a silver chalice. Arslan stood by the window, a silhouette against the scorched Damascus sky.
Was it necessary?
Khalil's voice was a dry rasp.
The mists, the blood, the madness?
Arslan turned, his eyes as cold as a tombstone.
Necessity is for men of small ambition, Huzur. For you, it was a rebirth. You and the girl are now a single circuit, a living conduit.
He stepped closer, the floorboards groaning under the weight of his words.
The mechanics are simple, though they sound like a fever dream. When the moon is high and the flesh is joined, she is your vessel. Now, whenever you are making love to her, in the heat of the act, you whisper your desires into her ear. Not as a lover, but as a master writing upon a blank page, you tell her what must be done.
Khalil frowned, the complexity of the web beginning to shimmer in the dark.
And then?
And then,
Arslan continued, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial hum.
she goes to Farouk. She allures him with her beauty, and when Farouk is sleeping with her, she gives him the same heat, the same embrace. But as she does, she breathes your commands into his soul. By dawn, your will becomes his reality. He will be a puppet dancing on threads he cannot see.
The audacity of it hung in the air like smoke. Arslan's grin was a jagged line in the dark.
You could command Farouk to name you the next Pasha. You could command him to sign the scrolls of his own undoing. And when the ink is dry and the power is shifted, you can whisper one final order into the girl's ear. Tell him to take his own life.
Khalil felt a cold shiver of adrenaline. He had sent assassins. They had come back in pieces. He had tried gold. It had been refused. But this, the Banu al-Zulmah, the children of darkness, had provided a weapon that no steel could parry. The slave girl was no longer a woman. She was a living talisman, a key that could unlock the throat of the Ottoman Empire. Confusion still clouded Khalil's mind, but it was being burned away by the white-hot glare of ambition. Damascus was a start. Sidon was a footstool. If the girl could break a pasha, she could break an emperor. He looked toward the room where the girl lay, imagining the dark mist that now lived behind her ribs. The throne of the Sultan seemed less like a dream and more like an inevitability.
One night?
Khalil whispered to the empty room.
One night to test the ghost in her blood.
He would give the method its trial. If Farouk fell, the world would follow. The incense in the bedchamber was thick, a cloying sweetness that masked the scent of cold calculation. In the year of our Lord 1750, Damascus was a city of stone and secrets, and Khalil's room was its beating black heart. He was over her, his skin slick with a sweat that felt like oil. This was no common lust, it was a rhythmic, desperate masonry, building a bridge of shadow between two souls. As he moved within her, the ghost of the Rouhani ritual stirred in their joined blood. He leaned down, his lips brushing the shell of her ear, his voice a jagged whisper that cut through the haze of their union.
Farouk must declare me his Kethuda.
He hissed, the word a command etched in the dark.
My shadow must become his deputy, my voice, his law.
The girl's eyes were wide, vacant pools. She didn't moan, She mirrored. Every thrust of his body drove the command deeper into her marrow, turning her into a living talisman of the Banu al-Zulmah. When the candles finally guttered out, she was no longer a woman. She was a weapon, primed and aimed at the throat of the Levant. The journey to the Pasha's divan was a silent procession of dread. Khalil dressed her in silks the color of a bruised pomegranate, her veil a spiderweb of gold that promised more than it hid. Farrukh Nizam, the Pasha of Damascus and Sidon, sat upon his dais like a mountain of brocade. He was a man of iron and old-world rectitude, his gaze heavy with the weight of governing a fractured frontier. When Khalil presented the girl, the air in the hall seemed to tighten.
My lord, sire,
Khalil began, his bow low, his heart a frantic drum.
a jewel for your harem, the finest vintage Damascus has ever pressed, a gift to ease the burdens of the state.
Farrukh leaned forward. His eyes traveled over the girl, noting the supernatural grace of her posture, the silent invitation in her stillness. For a moment, the trap seemed to snap shut. The ink of the jinn was working. The air around her shimmered with an irresistible, predatory magnetism. Then, the Pasha spoke. His voice was not the gravel of a lustful man, but the tolling of a funeral bell.
I do not take slaves, Khalil, especially not women.
The words hit Khalil like a physical blow. In an empire built on the Devshirme and the sprawling harems of Topkapi, the statement was a heresy.
My lord?
Khalil stammered, his mind racing through the dark alleys of his plan.
She is a prize, a comfort for a man of your stature.
I have a wife.
Farrukh replied, his gaze returning to the ledgers on his table.
The law of the Prophet speaks of justice. If I cannot provide equal heart to another, I shall not take another. My household is closed to such gifts. Take your jewel back.
Khalil stood frozen. The elaborate machinery of the Ruhani, the chanting, the blood, the agonizing nights of programming the girl, had hit a wall of boring, stubborn virtue. The girl stood there, a loaded pistol with no one to shoot. The silence in the hall grew heavy. Khalil realized with a surge of bile that he hadn't planned for a man who was actually good.
My lord, sire.
Khalil's voice was a smooth, oily caress.
If your heart is closed to your wife, let this slave girl to be a shadow for your wife, a gift for the Hanum. I cannot take back what has been offered to a pasha. It would be a stain on my honor. Be merciful to a loyal Sanjak Bey.
Farrukh Nizam shifted his weight, his furs rustling like dry leaves. He looked at the slave girl. Even in her silence, she possessed a majestic ethereal aura, the ink of the jinn, radiating a magnetic pull that defied the cold stone of the divan.
Very well.
Farrukh conceded, his voice a low rumble.
My wife has complained of the incompetence of her current retinue. She shall serve the Hanum.
Khalil's heart hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird. He had pushed his way past the threshold, but the prize was still behind a locked door. To get the pasha into the girl's bed, the wife had to become a memory.
Sire,
Khalil added, his eyes downcast in a feigned show of humility.
allow me to present her to your wife tomorrow myself. A servant of this caliber deserves a formal introduction, so the Hanum knows the true worth of the gift.
Farrukh paused. In the 1750s, the sanctity of the harem, the private quarters, was absolute. For a Sanjak Bey to request an audience with a pasha's wife was nearly unheard of, a breach of adab. But Farrukh, perhaps blinded by Khalil's apparent desperation to please, gave a sharp, singular nod. That night, the candles in Khalil's chambers burned low, weeping tallow onto the floor. He was with the girl again, their bodies a frantic blur in the gloom. This was no longer a ritual of union. It was a briefing for a slaughter. As he drove into her, his fingers tangled in her dark hair, he leaned close, his breath hot against her neck.
The wife.
He hissed, the words a jagged prayer.
She is the wall. Tear it down. Kill her, but let the blood look like a stumble, an accident, a tragedy for the Pasha, and an opening for you.
The girl's eyes were glassy, reflecting the guttering flame. The command sank into her soul, overwriting her humanity with the cold logic of a predator. By dawn, she was a clockwork assassin, her beauty a sharpened blade concealed in silk. The next day, the air in the Pasha's private quarters was heavy with the scent of rosewater and simmering resentment. When Khalil presented the girl to Farooq's wife, the atmosphere curdled instantly. The Hanum sat upon her embroidered cushions, her eyes narrowing as she surveyed the gift. She saw the flawless skin, the supernatural grace, the way the girl moved like smoke through a keyhole. The wife didn't see a servant. She saw a replacement.
She is adequate,
the wife said, her voice dripping with the cold honey of a palace threat. But behind her veil, her teeth were set. She hated the girl with the visceral instinct of a woman who knew her position was being weighed and found wanting. The slave girl bowed low, her forehead touching the cool marble. She was already mapping the room, the height of the balconies, the slippery tiles near the fountain, the weight of the heavy brass censers. The plot was a spider web, and the wife was already vibrating the silk. It had been only a week since the slave girl entered Hanum's service, yet the palace had already begun to whisper her name. She worked in silence, precise, tireless, almost invisible in movement. But her beauty refused invisibility. It clung to corridors, lingered in courtyards, followed servants into kitchens and guards into barracks. No one in the palace remembered having seen such exquisite symmetry of face and form. Hanum noticed, and Hanum did not approve. Farooq Pasha too began hearing of her, not merely of her beauty, but of her discipline, of the way she never faltered, of the way she lowered her gaze yet commanded every room she entered. Praise reached him like perfumed smoke. He listened. The girl did not seek attention, yet attention found her. Jealousy, however, found Hanum first. Within a week, Hanum had resolved to teach her a lesson, a quiet, irreversible one. The slave girl was assigned the harshest tasks, the coldest floors, the longest hours. Still, she did not complain. She moved through humiliation like a shadow through torchlight, untouched. If her beauty was discussed in the city, her patience was discussed even more. She endured, and she waited. The moment arrived on a night heavy with wine and wounded pride. Farooq lay beside Hanum, but his words were elsewhere. He spoke only of the girl, of the admiration she inspired, of her uncommon resolve. Each sentence was another drop of poison in Hanum's cup. By midnight, jealousy had ripened into something darker. That same night, she gave the order. 2 soldiers were summoned. The instruction was simple. Take the girl. End her. They led her away through narrow passages and out beyond the palace lamps. But when men are sent to kill beauty, temptation often precedes obedience. They decided instead to claim her for themselves. Hidden, forgotten, possessed. It was their final mistake. They didn't know that Iskander Khalil was keeping a watch on the slave girl. He knew that something like this was on the cards. He was waiting for such an opportunity. The guards, though they were taking the girl to a secluded place, but in the seclusion they chose, Iskander Khalil was already waiting. The encounter was swift, efficient. The soldiers were subdued before they understood the trap had been set for them. Khalil did not speak much. He rarely did when justice was required. By dawn's cold light, he breached Farooq's court. Behind him, the captured soldiers were mere shadows in chains. Beside him, the slave girl stood, unbroken, untouched, a silent testament to his will. Hanum's face drained, her composure dissolving like ash. Farouk listened to the truth, his silence heavier than the sentence that followed. The verdict was absolute. Hanum had erred, and the cost was grave. But it was not the girl who would pay. In a move that cut through the court like a blade, Farouk declared his decree. The girl would not be punished. She would be honored. He would take her as his wife, not out of a faded love for his first, but because the scales of justice demanded it. The court became a tomb. Hanum stood frozen, a statue of ruined pride. Even the girl, who had expected a concubine's fate or a shallow grave, felt the weight of disbelief. Why grant the sanctity of a wife to a shadow? To her, it was a grace beyond comprehension. To Iskander Khalil, it was something else entirely. Watching from the periphery, a thin, sharp grin touched Iskander's lips. He saw the truth behind the Pasha's noble gesture. The man was no longer a ruler, but a piece on a board. Luck had been a fickle mistress, but tonight, persistence had won. The Pasha was finally going to be in his control. The shadows of the palace were no longer cast by stone and torchlight alone. A deeper, more parasitic darkness had begun to coil around the heart of the province. The wedding night had been a ritual of exquisite deception. Farouk Pasha, a man whose soul was forged in the fire of piety and whose reputation was a sanctuary for the oppressed, approached the girl not as a conqueror, but as a devotee. He renamed her Hani Mariam, a title of grace that struck her like a physical blow. She was a vessel of the Banu al-Zulmah, a witch designed to be a beautiful poison, yet in the presence of Farouk's terrifyingly pure conduct, she felt the first tremors of a conscience she was never meant to possess. But the spells of the sorcerers are not broken by mere emotion. Farouk opened all the clothes of Mariam, and she was naked. Farouk opened his clothes and laid next to her. He started kissing her all over, enjoying every curve of her exquisite body. Soon, his touches turned from worship to deep, rhythmic act of union. He was inserting himself in the beauty that lay beneath him. And when the rhythmic beat of union was at its peak, the command of Iskander Khalil rose within her like a cold tide. At the height of their intimacy, Mariam leaned into the hollow of Farouk's ear. Her voice was a silken needle, stitching the spell into his very consciousness.
Declare Khalil your deputy. Let his will be your voice. Let his hand hold the seal of the province.
For a heartbeat, Farouk's spirit recoiled, the instinctive flinch of a holy man touching a hot iron. But the Banu al-Zulmah spell was a masterpiece of psychic rot. It bypassed reason and latched onto the pleasure he found in her. By the time the gray dawn bled through the lattice windows, the man of God had been hollowed out. The pious Pasha was gone. In his place sat a puppet with Farouk's face. The court was a theater of the absurd. Farouk sat upon his divan, his eyes clear but distant, like a man dreaming with his eyes open.
From this day,
Farouk's voice rang out, steady and terrifyingly hollow.
because Khalil has brought me the light of my life, he shall be my shadow. He is my deputy, his word is my command, his silence is my law.
The hall erupted. A wave of choreographed clapping masked the sudden chill that swept through the veterans of the court. Iskander Khalil rose, his spine curving in a mock bow that was more an act of ownership than respect. He didn't just bow to the Pasha, he bowed to the masterpiece of his own treachery. But as the echoes of the applause died, the noir reality of the palace began to bleed through. In the corners, where the incense smoke gathered thickest, the whispers began. Khalil was no statesman. He was a man of the gutter, known for his predatory appetite for women and a mind that saw administration as nothing more than a way to fund his debaucheries. The ministers traded glances of grim realization. The queen was the currency, and the province was the change. They saw a pious man trading his God-given duty for the warmth of a witch's bed. A Sanjak Bey who couldn't manage a stable is now the hand that holds the grain and the sword, one vizier muttered into his beard.
We are no longer ruled by Farrukh's prayers, but by Khalil's vices.
The air in the court felt heavy, as if the very walls were beginning to weep. Khalil stood beside the throne, his eyes scanning the room, marking the faces of those who whispered. He knew the spell had worked. He knew that Farrukh was now a prisoner within his own skin. Luck was gone. This was now the reign of the shadow. Damascus did not sleep. It only changed masks. For a handful of days, the palace breathed like a contented beast. Farrukh Pasha moved through his marble corridors with the quiet satisfaction of a man who believed fate had finally chosen him. Beside him walked Mariam, no longer a slave in chains, but a wife in silk. Her presence softened the stone arches, tempered the brass lamps, turned whispers into sighs. In another wing of the palace, the first Hanum lived in a silence heavier than iron. Her command, the sinful decree that had ordered an innocent death, now clung to her like incense that would not fade. Repentance is not gentle, it gnaws. And her nightmare had taken shape, Mariam. And then there was Khalil. Khalil moved like a shadow stitched into the very architecture of power. The spell of Banu al-Zulmah had flowered exactly as promised. By Farrukh's own decree, the affairs of the state, revenues, military placements, alliances, now passed through Khalil's hands. De facto authority tasted sweet. De jure sovereignty would taste divine. His plan was simple, almost elegant in its cruelty. In a matter of days, Mariam would receive a whisper in the dark, a command carried through flesh and breath. She would poison Farrukh. Khalil would ascend not as a mere manipulator of a pasha, but as pasha himself, and once enthroned, he would extend the tendrils of Banu al-Zulmah toward the distant throne of the Ottoman Empire. Empires, he believed, were only spells waiting to be cast correctly. But destiny is not a servant, it is a creditor. Two storms gathered at once. The first arrived in the form of Arslan, emissary of the Banu al-Zulmah. Arslan did not threaten, he merely reminded. Power demanded payment. The Brotherhood wanted its share, a bounty vast enough to empty vaults and stain ledgers. Khalil forged the numbers himself. State records were bent, revenue accounts bruised, treasury lines siphoned in silence. There are no free lunches in Shadowcraft. Arslan had delivered Mariam knowing Khalil's appetite. The trap had never been subtle, it had only been patient, and Arslan knew everything. To silence him, Khalil paid the first installment, not in coin alone, but in dignity. The second storm brewed inside the palace. Farrukh's first wife shed her tears in public, but sharpened her resolve in private. She invited Farrukh and Mariam to dine, a reconciliation beneath golden lamps and silver trays. The poison dissolved invisibly in Mariam's dish. Mariam lifted the morsel. Farrukh stopped her. Suspicion, like an old soldier, had never left him. He insisted on tasting the food first. The first wife paled. She tried to intervene, too urgently. Farrukh swallowed. Moments later, he vomited blood across the marble floor. The palace shattered into panic. Physicians were summoned. Prayers echoed through corridors. Farrukh hovered between life and oblivion, breath rattling like a loose hinge on death's door. Mariam stood frozen. She had come as a talisman, a puppet, a blade disguised in silk. Her task had been simple: seduce, obey, destroy. But the man who lay gasping before her had chosen her honor over his life. Love does not knock. it detonates. The spell of Banu al-Zulmah cracked. Farouk's uprightness, his stubborn, almost naive piety, rippled through the palace. The first wife wept not in performance, but in horror at what she had nearly done. Both women prayed at his bedside. Both served him with trembling devotion. And slowly, stubbornly, Farouk survived. Forgiveness followed, a dangerous virtue in a court built on suspicion. He pardoned his first wife. He kept Mariam close. The palace outwardly returned to calm. But Khalil's world began to rot. The treasury bled from falsified accounts. Arslan demanded a second installment. And Mariam would not see him. She avoided corridors he walked. She turned her face from his shadow. The whispers that once bound her now dissolved against the wall of her newfound devotion. She belonged to Farouk. Khalil's plan required intimacy, flesh close enough for a command to slip through breath. Without it, the spell lay dormant. Desperation is the ugliest counselor. When Arslan returned, demanding more coin and more obedience, Khalil did not calculate. He erupted. Rage sliced cleaner than any ritual dagger. In a narrow courtyard lit by a dying lantern, Khalil drew steel and slit Arslan's throat. The emissary collapsed without ceremony. Blood pooled quietly, as though even it feared to make noise. But killing a messenger does not erase a debt. Damascus did not sleep that night. It watched. The night Arslan's blood touched stone, the air itself recoiled. In the hidden chambers beneath Damascus, where oil lamps burned blue and prayers were spoken backward, the Banu al-Zulmah felt it. The rupture. Their emissary was dead. His throat opened not by ritual steel, but by rage. They did not weep. They gathered. Cloaked figures formed a circle around Arslan's body. Ash was smeared across their brows. Incense thickened the room until breathing felt like swallowing smoke. They did not curse Khalil. They invoked him. "If he has chosen blood over covenant," the eldest whispered, "let blood bind him forever." Their chants were not for mercy. They were for transformation. Above them, the palace trembled with another sin. Khalil moved quickly. Desperation had stripped him of calculation. Mariam had slipped beyond his whisper, beyond his command. Love had broken the lattice of the spell. That could not be allowed. He abducted her at dusk. The chamber he dragged her into was once used for storing tapestries. Now it held only shadows. Khalil was no longer the patient schemer. He was a man clawing at vanishing control. What he tried to reclaim was not love. It was dominion. Khalil slapped Mariam as hardly he could. She hit the floor, the cold stone biting into her skin. Khalil moved with the frantic, jagged energy of a man losing his grip on a puppet's strings. He reached for her silks, intent on stripping away the last of her agency. But the Banu al-Zulmah slave girl was gone. In her place was something forged in a colder fire. For the first time, Khalil felt it. Resistance. Not the soft pleading of a victim, but the hard, rhythmic recoil of a trapped animal. Mariam didn't just struggle. She fought with a primal, rhythmic fury. Her heels caught him in the ribs, a dull thud that sent a bloom of pain through his chest. She scrambled for the door, her breath coming in ragged, desperate hitches. Khalil snarled, his ego bruised worse than his ribs. He lunged, catching her by the hair and dragging her back. One slap, 2, 3. The world blurred for Mariam until she collapsed, a broken heap on the rugs. With a guttural growl, Khalil tore the fabric from her frame, leaving her exposed to the biting draft of the room. Stark, naked. He looked down at her, but there was no lust. Only the cold, clinical desperation of a sorcerer whose power was hemorrhaging. The spell was fraying at the edges. The invisible chains he'd used to bind her soul were snapping one by one. He stripped his own garments, moving to pin her down, to rebind her through the only way he knew how. He had to make passionate love to her and make her his vessel again. But he had forgotten one thing. She was no longer his creature. She was the wife of the Pasha. Mariam's teeth found the meat of his shoulder. Khalil let out a howl of pure, unadulterated fury as blood slicked his skin. In that moment of agonized shock, she shoved him with the strength of the damned, ran for the door, and threw herself out of that room, into the hall. She ran blindly into the dark, only to collide with a wall of solid muscle. Faruk Pasha stood there, a silhouette carved from the night itself. The flickering torchlight behind him turned his features into a mask of granite and rage. He looked down at Mariam, shivering, bruised, and stripped of everything but her defiance. And then at Khalil, who stumbled out behind her, naked and wild-eyed. The silence that followed was heavier than a shroud. Without a word, Faruk unfastened his heavy fur cloak and draped it over Mariam, his eyes never leaving Khalil. The truth didn't need to be spoken. It was written in the blood on the floor and the terror in the air. Khalil's mind snapped. The carefully laid web of his ambition had dissolved into a nightmare. Knowing his life was forfeit, he scrambled back into the room, his fingers closing around the hilt of his curved blade. He emerged like a shadow possessed, the steel gleaming under the torches as he lunged at the man who had everything he desired. Steel flashed. The duel was not long. Khalil had cunning. Faruk had conviction. And conviction that night was heavier. Faruk's blade entered cleanly. Khalil staggered back, disbelief widening his eyes. He did not fall immediately. He stared at Mariam, not with regret, not with love, but with hunger unfinished. Then he collapsed. Below the palace, the Banu al-Zulmah's chant reached its crescendo. Two forces collided in that moment, the Brotherhood's invocation and Khalil's own burning desire, not merely to rule a city, but to outlive it. Death did not take him, it unmoored him. For years there were whispers in Damascus, a draft where no window stood, a voice behind mirrors, a shadow that moved before its owner. The spirit that had once been Khalil learned quickly. Flesh was a door, and doors could be opened. His first vessel was a pirate in the Mediterranean, a man already hollowed by greed. Possession was effortless. Through salt and cannon smoke, Khalil tasted life again. He slit throats without trembling. He drowned rivals without blinking. When the pirate was hanged in Marseille, the spirit slipped free like smoke from a broken lantern. He discovered something else. The body was temporary. The appetite was not. Centuries folded. He wore a Venetian mercenary, a Mughal courtier, a French revolutionary with blood on his boots, a Balkan smuggler who trafficked more than goods, a war orphan who grew into a killer for hire. With each vessel, his memory thinned but his instinct sharpened. He no longer remembered Mariam's face clearly. He remembered only the sensation of losing control. Control became his currency. By the 20th century, he found modernity delicious. Guns were faster than daggers, contracts cleaner than conspiracies. He began to take shape in a new myth, a figure whispered in criminal circles, faceless and efficient. They called him Assassin Prime. He accepted the name without knowing why it pleased him. He did not ask who he had once been. He only knew that when a price was named and a target defined, something inside him aligned. Kill, disappear, move on. Yet something shifted in London. His 15th vessel was a petty thief operating in the underbelly of the city, a man quick with locks and quicker with lies. The possession should have been simple. Instead, it was heavy. The thief had stolen something strange. Not gold, not jewels, but a manuscript wrapped in oilcloth, an old text that spoke of shadows given will. After that night, Assassin Prime did not take a contract. He withdrew. Years passed. No new killings bearing his signature, no contracts fulfilled in silence. The criminal underworld assumed he was dead. He was not. He was waiting. And then, in India, a young man named Yakshay began to hear a voice that was not his own. London. A damp evening. Street lamps bled halos into mist. Inside a quiet townhouse in Mayfair, the story ended. Pandit Nagendra closed his eyes as though sealing a coffin. Across from him, Suraj Gera sat rigid. The fire crackled but gave no warmth.
So you are saying
Suraj whispered.
my son is possessed?
Nagendra did not soften it.
Yes.
The word landed like iron. Outside, London moved, taxis, rain, indifferent lives. Inside, Suraj felt sweat bead under his collar despite the cold.
For 2.5 centuries,
Nagendra continued.
this entity has walked through men like a traveler through inns. 15 bodies, 15 lives consumed.
And Yakshay?
He is the 16th.
Silence stretched. Nagendra's voice dropped lower.
But this time is different.
How?
Something happened to Darkveil in that last vessel. Something interrupted the cycle.
So can we destroy it?
Suraj said, desperation sharpening his tone. Nagendra shook his head.
You cannot destroy what you do not understand.
The rain intensified, tapping against the windows like restless fingers.
The answer to freeing Yakshay
Nagendra concluded.
is not in rituals alone. It is in history. We must discover what happened to Darkveil when it possessed that London thief.
He leaned forward.
Darkveil possessed people from 1750s to 1870s regularly, but then why did he stop? Why now possessing Yakshay after more than 100 years? What happened with that London thief? Once we know that, only then will we know what broke the pattern.
Somewhere across continents, his son slept, unaware that the shadow inside him had once been a courtier in Damascus, a pirate, a mercenary, a legend. Unaware that the ghost that refused to die was no longer just an assassin. It was becoming something else. Darkveil.